Day again, right? All right, you guys, we have a great show planned for you. First, though, we want to talk about the next school, right? So today is September 28th. So you're pushing to the end of the month.
Yeah.
For those who are involved in the Cocoa Run, they know what they need to be doing. Don't quit. You're almost there. Keep pushing it through to the end. If you have not already bought your tickets for the next school, go out to getbiggergohome.com and buy your tickets for Winston-Salem, October 29th through the 31st.
Yep.
Halloween in
Get them
Winston-Salem.
in before the 24th, because that's the that's the cutoff.
The recognition cutoff.
You got to have a ticket in your own name, right?
Yep. If you're a new RVP to us, fill out the RVP form so we know that you're playing the game with us. Email it back to tickets@nightglass.com and we will take care of you.
Yep, you can find that form at getbiggergohome.com right at the top.
Right at the top. All right, why don't you introduce our fabulous
so we got
for tonight.
Big chunk from Glenn Lee. It's
Yes,
basically going to be
nice.
the majority of the show. So he talks about a couple of things, but he all ties it back into how you can make so much money in Primerica now without being big. You know, back when Andy first built, when the company was founded, the only way to make real money is you had to get huge. They had no other way to make a lot of money. And so now, it's so easy to make money. A lot of people don't get big. So he talks about why you need to get big, why you don't stop. Why do a lot of people, they start making good money and they stop before they're actually really big and they've really built a large business. And then, why build a base shop? Why keep the whole thing going and running that? So please get your pencils sharpened because you're not going to get a break. It's just going to be Glenn until we run to the close. So take your notes and throw it to Glenn.
We'll see you soon.
I know in Primerica today, the contract is so much better than it used to be. And I'm talking about income-wise. You don't have to do that much to make a great income today. Does that make sense? But it's also a little bit dangerous because I remember Keith Otto talking about build it till it's built. And if we take a look at big, Andy's got a big hierarchy. Does that make sense? And I realize we're not where we need to be yet size-wise. Maybe at one point, now, when I first joined the business, if you told me, man, you're going to make $1 million, I would have said, man, $1 million is awesome. $1 million is awesome. But first of all, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have wanted it, but I wouldn't have believed it. But then I would have settled at 30,000, 50,000. Does that make sense? Why get big? There's a few reasons why people think freedom. How many of you guys are in it for the freedom? Right? And now you also got to define what freedom is. Freedom to me, when I first joined Primerica, was I was very restricted. One thing I always loved was food. How many of you guys like me, right? I love to eat, right? I like to enjoy my meals. One of the reasons why we moved right across the river from Manhattan is so that we could go to eat in Manhattan every single day, right? I heard you have to live like 300 years to be able to go to every restaurant in Manhattan. One restaurant a day for 300 years. I go, holy cow, that's crazy. Okay, but watch. But freedom. I love the idea of freedom. So freedom to me was going to a restaurant, not having to look at the right side of the menu, does that make sense? And being able to choose what I wanted on the left side. So I remember after a club, after a show, whatever it was, that we would go to afterwards, we would be broke. But the only two places that were open at night to eat was White Castle. Okay, you guys have White Castle here? Right, White Castle. And the other one was diners. And I remember every time I would go to a diner, there were two things I would choose. I would choose a side order of spaghetti, right, with tomato sauce, and then a side order of mashed potatoes. You know why? Because when I looked at the right side of the menu, see, I didn't choose my food. It chose me. Because I would look at the right side of the menu, and I would go, oh, wait, that's $12, $3. And then I go I'll take one of those before I knew what it was. And then I would go down the list. I go, that's not enough. I go, okay, I have a couple more dollars. Okay, go down. And I go, spaghetti, side order spaghetti. I go, no meatballs, nothing, right? Just spaghetti sauce. I go, that's $2.50. I go, $5.50. I can have a whole meal. And so making income to me meant, man, from now on, we don't have to look at the right side of the menu anymore and go eat what we want. Does that make sense? Also, maybe money. People talk about money all the time, and I remember it's funny because when you first joined Primerica, you know what our friends used to say? That thing doesn't work, right? I had an uncle that tried that before. I had a cousin that went to one of those meetings, right? And they go, that doesn't work. And then when you're there a little bit longer, guess what happens? And when it starts working a little bit, I remember my mom used to say, yeah, but it's working a little bit, right? But it's probably not going to work for you. Our friends tell us that, right? Now in the back of their mind, friends, they're like, man, I hope they don't really make it. Because when you win, it's just a reminder to them that they didn't do or they didn't follow your direction. And it's crazy because after a while, when things start working, when things are happening, right, then my mom goes to me, like, I remember we were making about 130, 140 at the time. And, at the time, I was making $10 an hour. So when you're making over 100,000, you're like, oh, I made it, And then, we proved the company worked. And my mom goes to me, goes, yeah, but how long is that going to last? Because what if you run out of people, right? What if you run out of clients? I go, we live in the most densest part of the entire country. There's more people turning 18 than ever before, right? More people having families, more people moving into the country than ever before. There is no way we're going to run out of people, but they don't know that because they're always looking and never programmed to look at the positive. And then later, as you progress a little bit, when they realize you're probably not going to run out of people, then they start saying things like, man, money isn't everything. Why are you working so hard? I know my father tells me all the time right now, he goes, why are you working so hard? Why do you still go to the office? He goes, life isn't just about that. But this is the same guy that told me that Primerica wasn't real. Same person that told me that you're probably not going to make it and you're going to run out of people. Now, see, as you progress, are you going to be the reason why people around you are going to believe that the company's working? Or are you going to be someone's broke uncle telling your nephew, don't join that thing because you were here one time before? Does that make sense? So we were playing for more self-dignity than anything else, because my whole life we were told that, because I didn't go the route that my parents wanted me to go, which was go get my PhD by the time I was 14, right? I didn't go that route. So really, I remember at 19, right? And I love my father. I say this because it's part of my story, okay? But we have a great relationship today, right? I love my parents, right? But it's crazy because what started happening was, I remember at 19, I moved back to my house. At about 22, 23, my father goes to me, because I quit college, okay? I didn't do the one thing that he brought us over to this country to do. When I was about 22, he said to me, he goes, listen, you're probably never going to do much with your life. And Chinese parents, that's the normal Chinese parent, okay? So watch. He goes, you're probably not going to do that much with your life, so why don't you take over my business? His business was retail music, and at the time it was already going downhill because all the free downloads and stuff. And he goes, you could take this business to the next level. I go, you work 7 days a week. You leave the house at 4:30 in the morning. You don't get home till 9 o'clock at night. And you do that 6 days a week, and on Sunday, you work part-time. Part-time was 9 to 6. I go, no, I ain't taking that over. And so, when we joined Primerica, it was our chance to kind of win back that respect. Does that make sense? We all want to achieve something great, but along the way, why do we stop? See, different people stop for different reasons, right? And really, one of the reasons is you've already achieved your goals. Maybe you're at a level where you said, man, you know what? I've already achieved what I wanted to come here for. but that's not the case with most of us. Does that make sense? See, most of us, we have not achieved where we wanted to go. And by the way, the more you grow in this business, the more you know that there's more to grow. And so it didn't happen fast enough. You know, when people talk about, man, I'm going to give it 90 days. If after 90 days this doesn't work, I'm going into Herbalife, right? If 90 days this doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. See, I remember Keith talking about that. He goes, if you're going to give yourself a deadline to it, now you got to have goals. You have to have it in mind. He goes, but if you're going to give yourself a deadline and you're going to give yourself a time frame, right, of success, and if you're saying that if you don't make it during that time, you're going to quit and do something else, he goes, you might as well quit now. Because you never know when it's going to hit. Does that make sense? You never know what meeting you're going to sit in that's going to give you the information, that final piece to the puzzle. This business is like Tetris, all falling shapes and different things, and then you got to make odds and ends out of it. Does that make sense? You got to move the pieces till it fits. That's how it worked in my head at that time, right? Or we settle for less. Like maybe we said, man, you know what? I wanted to make 100,000. But I'm going to settle for 50,000. I knew I said I wanted to be an RVP, but district is where it's at, right? I know I wanted to get to SVP, right? I love what Mario Arizon talked about at Orlando, because he took all the lanyards with the different designations or at different levels, and he goes, and one thing he said, he goes, if you're an RVP, when are you going to be SVP? Right? If you're an SVP, when are you going to be an NSD? If you're an NSD, when are you going to be SNSD? See, what happens is one of the major mistakes we've made in the past, right? That if I could do it over again, right, I would have done was have goals past your goals. Because once we got up to a certain goal, you know what we did? We stopped. We stopped building momentum. It was like coming to the end of a movie and not setting up for the next movie. We're always trying to look for an easier way. Guys, listen, your leader is the best leader for you because they've created the system that is already working. Does that make sense? And sometimes we could go on, we could be distracted even by other Primericans. And sometimes we look at it always, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. All we see is a perfect image up front. Does that make sense? Right? And sometimes we don't know. We don't know what, like if they got QBI challenges. We don't know if they got challenges, people challenges. All we see is what we see and what they want us to see. Does that make sense? And what I'm saying is a lot of times we find other leaders and we go, oh man, if I work for that team, if I work for those guys, you don't know what they got going on. Does that make sense? Right? And sometimes we start thinking things like, oh, things look easier on that team. Why are so many people on that team winning? Now, there's a lot of teams in Primerica winning, right or wrong. But maybe it's not the piece of the puzzle that you need that can go with your team. Does that make sense? And your leaders already know what's best for that team. And they're always if they got you showing up here right now, they're putting you and they're equipping you. Does that make sense? We're always looking for something that does not resemble work. We're always looking for microwave success. We're always looking for something where we can, let me just sign up and make $1 million right away. Those things do not exist. We're looking to flip something all the time, right? Like you go on YouTube right now, there's always a video that pops up in the beginning and they talk to you about, hey, how do you turn $50 into $7 billion? And you know what we do? We go, wow, that's awesome. That's beautiful. Why I love, Primerica, you got to talk to people. You got to go through the numbers. Over here, you got $50, I can make 50 billion. And we think those things work. And we get distracted with those things. And we start looking at different avenues of making money, right? I mean, Sue and I, we have investments in different like mutual funds and stocks and stuff like that. But we don't get caught up in that stuff. Does that make sense? Because I know that if we build a freaking leg, right? Every $10,000 leg we built, that's $5,000 to $8,000 in passive income. Does that make sense? That's better than anything you could flip. So watch. Look, we're looking for an easier way. Also, lost the motivation. I think people that lose the motivation probably weren't really motivated by what they said they were motivated by in the beginning. Did you hit your goals yet? No. Then your goals weren't that strong to begin with. See, we got to find a real reason why we're going to work, right? And sometimes, initially, it was like, I just wanted to prove my parents wrong. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that's the right motivation. Because if that was my motivation today, there would be a problem. But that was me in the beginning at 20 years old. Then it became the cars, right? I remember people telling me, no, you're not going to make it. That thing doesn't work, right? Going to parties and your friends scatter like roaches, right? And you know when they just had a conversation about you because the words are still in the air. And then they all go away, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm thinking, man, if you tell me no, I'm going to put you on my drive-by list. Because one day I'm going to get a beautiful car, and I'm just going to honk by your house. Now, by accident. But that was when I was like 25, 26. Because at that time, I thought that was what success was. Does that make sense? Then over time, you realize why I don't even care about what they think anymore, because it's so irrelevant. We've been so detached for so long. Does that make sense? On your journey to success, you're going to make new friends. Traded people for products. Hey, listen, building a 10 by 10 team, guess what? If you've never done 10 by 10, never double-digited before, if you double-digit, guess what you have to deal with? I love what Gus Gonzalez talked about, right? 3 people leave right away. 3 people are going to quit now. 3 people are going to quit later. 3 are going to do something. 1 could be a possible superstar. But along with people come what? People challenges. And so you gotta, like, people come around especially when they're young, they like wear diapers and stuff, and they come in and they're like, why do I have to sit a certain way? Why do I gotta sit in the meeting, right? Why do I gotta go to another meeting? What's an IBA stand for? Why I gotta read this whole binding agreement before I sign it? If you're gonna build a team, you're gonna have to go through people talking. Does that make sense? And with people, there are gonna be people challenges. So if you run a 10 by 10 team as an RVP, you're going to make about $100,000 a year. But if you do a $250,000 variable annuity, you're going to make about $100,000 a year, $250,000 every single month. So a lot of times I see a lot of my friends in the business that in the beginning we were recruiting together, we were doing things, and all of a sudden they gravitate, right? And I'm not putting down securities because as we're recruiting, as we're building, our securities volume is also increasing. Because you want to build a solid business, right or wrong. You want to build a distribution machine. But a $250,000 variable annuity doesn't talk back. It doesn't ask you why I gotta show up to training. It doesn't give you dirty looks in training, right? And a $250,000. So sometimes we go, man. So we trade our double-digit team for just securities or sales. And listen, in Primerica, you get to build it any way you want. Does that make sense? But I know that the people that I was friends with in the beginning, that was not what their initial intention was. They wanted to build a big hierarchy. They wanted to build something big. Does that make sense? And then along the way, they traded the people for the products. And they went into full sales mode. Instead of, I got to make money. Okay, let me sell a product. Like I've always thought, we got to hit our next diamond. We got to hit another milestone. Let's go recruit more people. Does that make sense? And so we traded people for products. But the challenge is, right, that $250,000 variable annuity ain't going to double next month. Your 10 by 10 team eventually will be a 20-20 team. It will become a 30-30 team. It will become a 50-50 team. It will become a 100 by 100 team. Does that make sense? Because an annuity, right? I know there's AUMs and stuff like that, right? Okay, but a lot of times, like any of our big trades or any of our big sales have always come through. Our last Vivint sale too, okay, always came through recruiting. Always came through recruiting. Does that make sense? And then we develop a victim entitlement mentality. Sometimes when we get to a certain level, we don't think we need to do the same things that we used to have to do. And that's a lot of times that's when people get stuck. Always start saying, man, you know what? if it's not me, the reason why I'm not winning, it's because of my upline. It's because of my downlines. It's because of my sidelines. It's because the chair is not comfortable. It's because the lighting was wrong. It was with my face. It's because the time training is. Now watch. I would build a super hierarchy if the op meeting was on Monday instead of Tuesday, right? And we start saying things like that to ourselves, justifying, right? And I've done a lot of that in the beginning. Man, if Keith only didn't talk as much about recruiting as he is now. See, we all know we need to recruit, but why do they got to train us more on the F&A? And we do training on that. They got to train us more on the products. And that was me in the beginning because I was like, man, because I thought this was financial services. And it is. But I heard someone say, he goes, you want to get financial services, you don't want to do financial services, you want to get financial services done. And I know that if you take, I heard Jimmy Myers say one time, he goes, the moment, I think it was a PLPP came out, he goes, that month I made an extra $10,000. He goes, I don't even have the product. I go, how did that happen? He goes, because I got thousands of people on the team. He goes, they do it. See, don't you want a team like that? Like I remember we were with Patty, right? And then we were introducing Patty to some of the guys in our office. And there was a guy in our office that plugged in with us, right? That was making $100,000. Wore the ring, and I'm like, hey Patty, let me introduce you to so and so. He goes, who's that person? Oh, I go, yeah. She's like, whose hierarchy is he in? I go, he's in your hierarchy. And she goes, oh, okay. The guy is $100,000 a year earner. Now, how many of you wouldn't mind, right, having a team so big that there's people that you don't even know that make up, not because you don't want to know them, but because your team is so big that there's people popping out all the time making $100,000. How many of you guys would love that, right? See, that's what Andy and the leaders in here have going on, right? I mean, I wish, not wish, wish is a bad word, okay? But we're going to have a business like that. Does that make sense? We're all going to have a business like that. So it's crazy to be, like right now I know our business, like I go, Patty doesn't know somebody who's an SNSD in her business. And we know everybody's social security number, right? We got everybody's thumbprint on file, right? I know everybody's date of birth, right? So I want to get to the point where I don't. And so watch. Not because I'm out of the game, but because the business gets so big, right or wrong. And so we got bitter versus better, right? We stopped because we got bitter. We stopped learning. We stopped taking instruction. We became selectively coachable. We became coachable only to the point we agree. And so we start getting bitter, right? Instead of saying, man, and then what happens is, as we start growing, we started recruiting 10, 20 people, but because we didn't get better, right, and we wanted everything to be back the way it was, we didn't want any challenges, so we bring our 20 recruit team back down to 10, back down to 5. And guess what? When you got no people coming through your business, you got no people problems, except with your spouse, you know what I'm saying? So watch. Why build a base shop? Number one is to keep relevant. Right, to keep relevant. I know a lot of the recognition and stuff goes to that. I'm not saying we do it for the recognition, but in order to be relevant, like I know that we're in the office every single day right now. Right? We're in the office every single day. We're doing things with the team every single day. We're doing socials with the team all the time, right? I know the winners in here are doing the same thing with their team, right? I know we're doing things together. We're doing parties together, right? We'll meet with people individually. We'll meet with people 1 on 10, 1 on 100, whatever it is, but we know what's going on the team. Does that make sense? Okay, next. It's also to intentionally stay uncomfortable. Without discomfort, we don't grow. Without discomfort, we're not going to grow, right? Like think about it. If you're sleeping in a bed and you feel nice and comfortable, you ain't going to move. But if something itches, you're going to move, right or wrong. If there's bed bugs, you're going to move, right or wrong. So watch. Compensation, right? The compensation, right? You can make money while you're building. Does that make sense? That's not the eventual goal. Next. Stay competitive, right? Build a base shop conducive to promoting RVPs, right? I know that it's like if I'm running a 5x5 RVP, 5x5 team, base shop, how can we promote vice presidents from that? Does that make sense? Right? If 5x5, it's not healthy to give birth at 1 month or 2 months. Does that make sense? Right? And so it helps new relationships, right? Like in the base shop, like we have great relationships with the regional vice presidents. They already speak the language, right? We joke around. We talk about the past. We talk about the good old times, right or wrong. But then you'd have new people come in, and it's like, man, I'm not comfortable, right? They're introduced. New people are introducing new people to you. Now you got to learn their name. You got to pronounce their name right. You got to meet this person, meet that person. See, we got to stop thinking about we got to do it. We have to think about we get the chance to do it. Does that make sense? We get the chance to do it. Okay, cool. Does that make sense? Okay, next. Okay, new recruits drive our business. New recruits drive our business. Most of the production in our business is coming from training, field training, new directs, new people, right? When new people come in, they bring in new markets. Would you guys agree? Right? New people come in, they bring in new markets, right? And then ultimately the goal is to keep the base a certain size so we can promote out more first generation RVPs, which will become second generation RVPs, which will become third. And then eventually we can have a big hierarchy. Does that make sense? See, that's the eventual goal, right? But a lot of times we want to have a big hierarchy, but we don't want to recruit directs. See, that cannot happen. Does that make sense? Unless you have a certain size team already. But if we're starting from scratch, we got to go recruit some directs.
Wow, I love the message.
I know, right? Why get big? And like we have seen examples of people who push and then they quit. Right? Yep. And why you don't want to do that, why that's the hardest part, probably pushing through that last little bit. But it's worth the effort. As always, Andy's system and everything that he does, the presentation, all that stuff is available at getbiggergohome.com for free.
Then the downloads section. So just hit downloads and scroll down, it'll all be there. Presentation, follow-up, why he does it the way he does it.
Right, memorize the presentation, it's 20 minutes, make it like your favorite song, like Rob always likes to talk about. It's all right there for you. And then plug into the environments. It's really let the environments do the work. You got to be there in person to understand the whole thing. Again, October 29th through the 31st in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
You're basically at a 30-day plan at this point. If you want to have a big showing at Winston-Salem, you got to get the pieces in place. You want a bus there? I mean, you need to have that thing reserved already. But if not, you need to scramble and get it now because I swear they're going to be booked up. A lot of football games going on. I know I've been seeing a lot of stuff going. It's Halloween weekend, so a lot of the buses are going to be booked. So make sure you get that stuff taken care of on the front end. Otherwise, you don't want to be playing catch up on the back end.
No, and I think too that you might. I've watched a number of people make that commitment without actually knowing if they have the people. Right? You got to live in belief. All of the time. So go out and get that stuff done. Again, you need a ticket in your own name before October 24th to be recognized. And then if you're a new RVP, make sure you fill out the download. Go to download the form and fill it out and get it back to us at ticketsatnightglass.com. Okay.
Do that before the 24th. That's the 22nd idea.
Don't send it to me on the 25th, which happens a lot. So, all right, you guys, recognize your people, rally your troops out there, and we will see you next week.